Alright, how's it going? My name's Paulo. I've been making websites since 2001. I got into DevOps about 4 years ago. I started as a developer and now I'm here. So one of the things I like to do is do security and DevOps. So one of the things I really believe in is security. That's on your laptop.
The internet.
I think being online might help.
Cody, can you give me the Wi-Fi?
So secure.
Passwords on sticky notes.
Yeah.
You know, it's fine as long as the sticky note goes into a safe. It's fine.
And nobody got to read it as it went by.
Yes.
It's against Wi-Fi. 7 complexity score of the password.
Which hopefully rotates the key every month.
How about it just checks for the Wi-Fi?
It doesn't matter, yeah. As much. As long as there's like network is smart to like say limit bandwidth per user.
It starts with the lowercase.
It's a separate problem.
Well, it works. I use it. Just make sure it's capitalized.
Yes. I thought Jason one was everyone their own personal account.
I believe in security.
Oh,
Predicting doom to the technology of tomorrow ignores the nightmares of technology today. And Taylor Swift did say that. So if you're on Twitter sometime, look up InfoSec Taylor Swift. It is amazing. So the question is, where's security fit in DevOps? So DevOps, into the name too, you have developers and operations. Again, really well-run DevOps does include people like sales and marketing, understanding the business itself, as well as understanding, integrating QA into it. But on the security side, I went to DEF CON, I had a bunch of friends in security, and they're kind of afraid of you guys. Like, I kid you not, they're actually afraid of DevOps. Because they see you guys as pushing stuff out, going crazy, they have no idea what you guys are doing. That's okay. I do DevOps too, and I really understand and appreciate what DevOps can do for a business, can do for an organization. So the question is, how can we get things going together a little better? So, this is the current state of affairs that Pete Cheslock very beautifully illustrated for us. DevOps is pushing out a bunch of really good stuff, and the security team is trying their best to clean up after it.
that's not fair.
Usually both ends.
It's a beautiful illustration, put a lot of effort into it. So the problem we have with security is, well, why aren't we doing security organizations? The problem is that some of the best security tools you can get from Veracode, Rapid7, Digital, these guys are all local. They're static analyzers. You go through your code and they say, okay, we find, they call them taints or they call them sinks. Certain function calls that are just insecure or vulnerable. And you have to use static analyzers to find them. The problem is, they're going to charge you 10 grand per developer per month, sometimes, some of these tools. It's not easy. On the flip side, you have a few open source tools, which I'm going to talk about. The other problem too is that dev organizations do PCI compliance. They usually tend to do quarterly pen tests. These quarterly pen tests are, it's a 3-month response period. We can't do that now, so it's not enough. And they're really expensive. And a lot of time what they're going to give you back is a big old PDF file. And that is the other problem too, is that if developers cannot fix the problem if they can't reproduce it. The tool sets used in security versus DevOps, QA, Ops are completely different. I'm sure some of you guys have seen developers that do websites and use Firebug. It's a really standardized tool, everyone uses it. But I haven't met a single developer in any meeting I've been to in Boston that uses Burp Suite. Or uses Burp Suite.
Okay.
It's a HTTP proxy, the similar way that Firebug does in developer tools, where it shows you, what's going on for your network traffic. Really simple. But Burp Suite is used by, I'd say, about 80% of the pen testers I talk to. It's really standard. What makes Burp Suite interesting is that you can do a lot of really aggressive replay attacks. So one of the common features we'll see on a lot of websites is saying, did you fill in your username and your password correctly? Sometimes we'll say, oh, we found the username, but the password's incorrect. As useful as that is for a feature for a website with really good UX, it's actually a bad security vulnerability because we can do password, we can do account enumeration. So, it's a different skill set, a different tool set. So how do we kind of bridge these gaps? So the way that I've started to see it is that I see security as like a superset of QA. So most developers are going to test the happy path with the expected input and the expected functionality of a given site. QA is going to poke around just a little bit more. They're going to send in, there's that joke on Twitter, I forgot to get a picture of it. A QA engineer walks into a bar. He orders -1 beers, 9999999 beers. He orders a AF scheduled beer. He orders a chameleon. QA is going to do things that developers don't actually expect it to do. They're going to do crazy input, and that's really good. What security people are going to do, though, is they're going to do the crazy input, but they're also going to do these really magical input. Things like SQL injection, things like cross-site scripting. So I see security as basically another quality gate to get over. So you start looking at it that way, and you start saying, well, security isn't this abstract thing. It's actually a test. It's a scientific experiment that we can run and implement as code. So that leads to the other idea, which is called rugged DevOps. So you guys have heard of Josh Corman. Yep, he's a cool guy. Gene Kim. These guys are pioneering this concept of rugged DevOps. And this is the very first introductory section of it. It says, I am rugged, and more importantly, my code is rugged. I recognize that software has become the foundation of our modern world. Mark Anderson. I recognize the awesome responsibility that comes with this foundational world. We are the pioneers of IT. We are creating systems that manage people's finances, manage their health, manage their vehicles. We create systems that have profound effects that scale to not only hundreds, we're talking millions of customers. I've personally developed systems that have literally helped monitor the corn growth throughout America. If we mess that thing up, we're literally messing up the entire food supply of America. So, we can do better. So this is the really commonly used tool in security known as Linux. This is a Linux distribution which has over 300 security tools built into it. It's completely free. So the question then becomes, well, okay, we know what security guys are using. We know what we're using. We know how we're doing things. So how can we kind of get the overlap of all this stuff? So what I propose, and what I've done in some of my projects is, normally I'll use Jenkins, or I'll use things like Bamboo or TeamCity and things like that to automate the code deploy pipeline. And 9 times out of 10, I'm usually going to use Ubuntu as the base project for that. I'm going to say, okay, give me Ubuntu, let's get Jenkins, let's put, linting, let's put a little code quality checks, let's do some functional tests, a little Selenium, things like that. We'll build that up. But I started realizing, if we want to do security and do some really aggressive testing, why not use a distro that already has all the tools built into it? So if you use Kali Linux and whatever build tool you want, that's all well and good, because at that point you start automating things. The problem then becomes is, well, you have all these tools and tests running, but you have no way to verify the outputs, do charts and graphs and make it reproducible. So I also work on another open source project called the Gauntlet project. So what this does is it says we're going to use a given, when, then format to basically be a wrapper around the command line. We'll let you run whatever security test you want, and we're going to verify against the output. So if we find things like privilege escalation, we find things like cross-site scripting and SQL map, we'll actually report on that. So that way the security team can write the tools, but then the developers can go ahead and run them themselves and verify that they've actually fixed the problems. So this right here is one of the given, when, then scenarios. So we can see running SQL map, which does SQL injection. So we say, given SQL map is installed, here's the target URL. So this is just a local project. When I launch SQL map with all the different, crazy command line stuff, verify that the output does not contain these two tables. So what's nice about this is we're saying, instead of having the security team come down on us and complain, we're actually going to have them give us code for us to write, or for us to run and reproduce stuff. Hope it all makes sense to you. But, so what do you guys have for questions?
Yes.
Yes.
So the Kali Linux, do you have any statistics to show how that is better, for instance, than if you're hosted in AWS using Amazon Linux?
So the funny thing about that, right now, the vast majority of people running Kali Linux, they run it in the VM, like locally. That's it.
Yeah.
Literally, I worked on a project from December to like middle of February to actually get it on Amazon. So if you guys look it up on my GitHub account, called it Diamonds. If I can find it. They are here. So what I did was I basically built a deployment version of this for Amazon. And again, totally free. Under the hood, what Kali is just Debian. That's it.
Right, but so, and there's a lot of controversy over this that I've read on the pros and cons of using AWS Linux versus other Linux. But I've read a lot of stuff that AWS works very closely with Intel, optimize their hardware for their kernel. It's the most performance steady platform to run in Amazon Linux. It's also auto-updated, which other AMIs are not. So what would be the advantage of running Kali Linux over AWS Linux?
Funny you mention that actually, because I worked on another project called Bootstrap VZ, and this is actually with the Debian Foundation. And what Bootstrap VZ does, you can see my comments if you actually look up here on some of the pull requests. Bootstrap VZ is used by the Debian Foundation to build their AMIs. So what I've done is I've taken their code and actually adjusted some of it to support Kali. So what you're going to get is you're going to get all the optimizations you would refer to with Debian.
But also
But
Kali.
are you going to get the AWS? Sorry, are you going to get the AWS optimizations?
Do you
That they've
care
been
for
working on in
security
secret?
wise?
But Kali is a tool.
Yes. Yes, you will.
You will.
Yeah, because I'm just taking everything that Debian's doing already and then just pulling it up.
But is Debian getting everything that AWS is doing is what I'm asking?
Yes, it is. Yeah, because again, this Bootstrap project is pulling in all those. A lot of it is kernel functions.
Yeah, it's kind of optimization for the hardware, yeah.
I'm glad to see you putting it on AWS. Do you run into trouble with Amazon going, hey, there's penetration testing, and they shut it off, or
So about
too many
that,
flags?
I've made some friends at Amazon.
When you got to call them and asked, please turn your account back on.
Yeah, they called me. So the way
What
that
did they
works.
call you?
What's that?
What did they call you?
Oh, they just said we need to shut down your account. They literally called me like 3 times in one day.
Were you scanning your own stuff, or?
Well, that's the thing too. Is it's a question of if you're doing it within your own account, technically according to the EULA, that's okay. The problem comes when you're doing aggressive security testing in Amazon. Is if your attacks are aggressive enough, in other words, you're scanning, like really high volumes. What will happen is that because you're doing shared tenancy, you may affect other people on the same like physical box. So they
But
get a
all
little
we ask is that you submit, we've done pen tests on AWS multiple times, you just need to submit a form,
Exactly.
ask for a period of time, identify the machines you use and just move on.
Well, I was wondering it in the context of your presentation, which had Jenkins running pen testing automatically, which would not be submitting a form. Like, I would submit the form saying, I want it all the time.
That's the problem.
Essentially you can, we submit a form, we've asked for 6 months and like go
6
ahead.
months, really, so it's not
I'm
Tuesday
surprised
from.
you got 6 months. I haven't got that far. You're probably a bigger company than I am.
Well, once your
No,
bill
we're not
goes
that
over,
big,
so
we're
it's
just
not-
like, all we need is a handful of instances to run pen testing, so perfectly fine.
Yeah, so
So,
Ask them
since
to not
Linux
be-
distribution structure has come up a bunch of times, if you just take your favorite Debian derivative and add Kali's Kali in your app sources, do you get something that's useful?
I would say yes, because when you're doing, even when you're doing QA testing, is you have the problem of you have your base system, which is basically just running OpenSSH, and that's it. So you have to, add in, provision and add all these tools. Like again, I use a lot of things with Python. I use Lettuce, linting tools, Radon, Selenium. It's a lot of tools. Yeah, you can build up Kali. It's all there. It's good to go, and you get like all of those tools, all installed, all the right configurations, all the right versions. And you're good to go. So that's really the benefit of it. It's saving you the time from having to install all of those 300 tools.
So you talked a little bit about the relationship between DevOps and security.
Yeah.
What do you see the relationship between security and QA right now?
So it's really funny. This is just me personally. As I talked to, I was actually had dinner a couple weeks with Michael Beasley about this, and Pete Cheslock. Is again, it's that idea of the quality gate. So what's really funny is the side effect of doing aggressive security testing. Like if you just do like SQL injection, just do SQL injection against all your URLs, you're actually covering a lot of things that QAs do, which is really, really fun. So just by doing security testing, even basic security testing, you'll actually be automatically automating some of what QAs do. I've worked with QA engineers in the past, and it's really interesting because, you know, you look at a QA engineer, they have to understand what the code is doing. I've had QA engineers that found SQL injection on their own. They had zero security training, but they actually found those problems. So I think there's a lot of overlap with those guys.
All right. Thanks, Paul.